putting the spotlight on local businesses in the capital city. This is 402 Business Insider with Travis Filing and Gary Tharnish on 1499.3 KLIN.
Hey, good morning, Lincoln. Thanks for joining us on a Sunday morning, early, 10 o'clock.
It is early.
Yeah, this is going to be fun, man.
Yeah.
It's a little 2-hour show. I love doing these 2-hour segments just because it gives us a little time to kind of stretch our legs, so to speak, and get a little bit deeper with our guests. So, yeah. So this first segment brought to us by Sutter Heyman Jewelers. I am Travis Filing with Transformation Marketing. With me, as always, is Gary Tharnish from Home Design Real Estate Group. And we're just going to slide into our business lesson in the news. So this is something, I saw this, it's a tiny little article, and I thought, this is kind of cool. It's kind of interesting. And then I started thinking about the ramifications of it. And I thought, maybe we should talk about this on the radio.
And then you decided to surprise me with it.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what this is. It's going to be good.
I didn't send it to you.
Which is fine.
There's a product that they quit manufacturing this product in November of 2025. This product has been in production for 232 years. And all of us have lots of them. I mean, there's probably a dozen in this room right now.
Okay.
What's the product?
Well,
right? What do we all have? I mean, 2-year-olds have them.
And it's had it for 230 years.
230 years.
And 2-year-olds have them?
Sure. 2-year-olds, 90-year-olds.
I give up.
Yeah, it's impossible to think of. The penny. They
I
quit
heard
manufacturing. Oh, sure, you heard about it.
No, I didn't. Because it costs them 3.5 cents to make it.
It does, 3.6 cents.
Right.
And I thought, oh, well, that's kind of weird.
It's copper, which is rare and expensive anymore.
Yeah, well, it's mostly tin now.
Is it mostly tin
I think
now?
it's just kind of copper covered or
colored.
Yeah, for the until like in, I think 1982, it was 95% copper. And now I think it's like 2% copper or something like that. And so I started thinking about it going, and in this article, they said that businesses are starting to hoard them. Well, that's weird, right?
So that they will have them to give back.
Yeah.
Out.
Yeah. And I started thinking about it going, that's kind of weird. You know, for the longest time, you always had to take a penny, leave a penny.
Yeah. You know what I thought of when I read it right away is a lot of software is going to have to be rewritten to round up or down.
Right.
Automatically. Right. I mean, everywhere it's going to have to be written now, not for any, if you're just with a card, doesn't matter. Right. But for any cash sale, of course, we're becoming less and less of a cashless society, which I personally don't like.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I have cash. I always have some cash. I always have a hidden $100 on me somewhere. Yeah. But yeah, it just kind of started thinking like, okay, if pennies go away, that means everybody's rounding up. I'm not rounding down. I mean, we don't do cash sales at my business, but you're going to round everything up. And I think, how many transactions? And if you're rounding up for cash, you're going to round up for a card, right? Because
I would think the software would be tied together.
Yeah, it would have to be.
You would have to.
It would have to be because
there will be a lot of clerks just deciding how they want to do it.
Yeah.
At the cash register themselves.
Could be.
Give them back a nickel instead of keep it.
Yeah. Well, and they said the nickel is the next thing on the list, that the nickel actually costs more than a nickel to produce. Oh, okay. That's kind of weird. But you start thinking about it going, at what point is this going to cause a little bit of an inflationary bump?
Do you think the government just wants to get rid of cash?
Oh, absolutely.
I do too.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. I do.
Yeah. Which I don't like the idea, but I think the younger generation's fine with it.
I hate it just because it scares me to death that I am not 100% in control of my money.
Nope.
Because
it could be shut off as quickly as it was turned on.
Yeah, they can freeze. And the government could freeze your assets anyway, but there's a process. It makes me nervous. But yeah, I saw this. I thought, man, that's interesting. That's really, really interesting. So I don't know.
I still think back to the day power was out pretty much all throughout Lincoln. And it was a storm. I'm going back a couple decades. And it was a storm. And I was in Target when it went out, and I was over there buying something very specific that I needed for an event that I was doing that day, and I needed it. the power went out, and of course everybody's freaking out. Sorry, you can't buy anything, you know. And I'm like, I think it was like $14 or something. I said, well, here, I'll just leave it 20. You know, well, we have no way. So finally, I finally found a store manager. I said, look, I'm just giving you $20. You can have the UPC code, whatever you want off of this. But I need to go. And it's like you would have thought that the sun hadn't come up for 12 days. I mean, people were panicking and freaking. And so, and I ended up just leaving it and getting, you know, he's like, well, I hope you come back for your change. I'm like, I don't need change. I just need the 15 minutes that I just wasted here back. That would be great.
Well, and you would think that, I mean, you remember Y2K.
Sure.
Right. I mean, that was crazy. Yeah. That was crazy.
Yep.
And I didn't own a business in 1999, 2000, but I remember it was all a mess. And you would think a massive event like that would cause people to go, maybe we need to be a little bit more cash dominant
and oriented.
And we've gone the total opposite way.
You know, I found, at least with my kids and their friends and employees I had before I sold the shop 5 years ago, that, like, well, David, our producer, you're younger, David. Do you carry a lot of cash? A little. Do you ever spend much of? I mean, no. Yeah, you know, and I've been places where cash isn't accepted. I'm the co-chair of the gala at the Lead this year, and I mean, it's a huge event, 460 people, lots of things you can buy, and it's all cashless.
Really?
Yeah, all cashless. You cannot spend any cash. You could put cash in a tip jar, but everything else is cash. Any drink you want is cash.
Wow.
All your bidding obviously is done by cash, but yeah, it's a whole new world. And you know,
because anybody can come down to my marketing firm and pay their bill in cash, even if it's $100,000. Bring it down. Cash is king.
Yeah. And then I have a friend who's a prepper. I sold his house about 2 years ago. And he hasn't lived here forever. He was went to high school with one of my other roommates, became our roommate for 3 months until I'm like, no, you have to go. It's odd. But anyway, I did sell his house, which was, again, it was the gun house I told you about, guns all over. But his big thing is he's like, you know, I've got a ton of cash hidden all throughout the house. I'm like, well, you better get it out.
Yeah.
Because people are in here looking at the house, and sometimes they'll wander into another room where the realtor isn't, you know, and then we found out, of course, there were a lot of guns too. But at any rate, the point I'm trying to get to is he's convinced that we're all slowly being brainwashed into using our left hands to buy things. In other words, your Apple Watch now, boom, you can buy with your Apple Watch. Boom, you can just put that up, put your wrist up now to buy, right? Because there is the town in Germany, one of the European countries, I'm not sure which it is, the company that has produced the implant that you can get that has everything the same as a chip on your credit card. So already for that company, when you go to come in the morning, you just put your wrist up and you check in. And now they do all of the things you buy for lunch there and everything are done that way. And the idea is that eventually, instead of a phone or Apple Watch or everybody, we'll all get a chip, and that's our economic info and everything else. You're in a car accident. If they can scan your wrist, you'll have it. So the technology's there, but
that's terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
That's really
I would rather
scary.
have cash.
Right.
But one thing that would be really nice is I won't have to deal with the other day, like where I left my wallet at home.
Oh, that
and happens. Then you're standing there and you go, okay, I'll be right back. It's so embarrassing. I'm like, how can I do that? Anyway.
Yeah, that's disturbing. But now,
well, it's interesting. I mean, you know,
on the business side of it, though, how do you prepare for that? If that's the way the world's going, how do you prepare for that?
Well, you know, you constantly stay on top of technology, right?
Yeah.
And my thought is, if that's where it's going, they're going to make it easy for the business owners, because if they don't buy in and people can't transact that way, then the product they developed is no good. Yep. So I mean, it'll work hand in hand, however it ends up being. But there's going to be tons of people that aren't going to do that. A lot of people consider it the mark of the beast.
Yeah.
So they're like, I'm not doing that. The only way you can buy is with this and all that. So it'll be interesting.
It will.
But I think getting rid of the penny, amen. I've hated the penny forever. It's a nuisance and a nightmare. And nickels, I don't know. It's round everything up or down, closest to a quarter, one way or the other. It all averages out in the end.
You know what I think of? Did you ever watch the show My Name is Earl?
Yes.
When he goes in and he buys something and he takes the penny dish.
Oh, yeah.
And he uses that to pay for it. And he goes, count that up and let me know if I have any change coming. That's what I always think of when I think of the pennies.
I know. Well, we just took, when we moved in November, we had I don't know, like 3 jars and a little Ziploc baggie filled with coins, and we took them in to change them in, and went into Pinnacle Bank over here on Hy-Vee, and I bank there a lot because it's right by the office. So that's kind of my, where I do the banking, and I know most of them. And there was a young guy in there I hadn't seen before, and I go, "Hey, I need to have all this." He goes, "Well, you have to have an account here." You could tell he was hopefully like, "Well, you have to have an account here," because nobody wants that job there,
right?
But we had like $300 and some in change.
You want crazy? So years and years ago, I had. We had filmed a TV commercial, and it was a political commercial for someone who was running for office. And we used pennies to get people to understand the budget, the depth, how short we were, the shortfall of this particular office. And so we had $2,000 worth of pennies, right? And we had them laid out on table after table after table.
So you're the problem.
Oh, well, if I still had them, I'd be the problem.
Solved.
and so when we got done, the candidate goes, "Well, this commercial is going to cost whatever it costs, $2,000-3,000. Just keep the pennies." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do with all these pennies?" And so, long story short, I used to have a Triumph Spitfire. You remember those little English sports cars?
They're great.
And it didn't have a front license plate on it. And I got pulled over because I didn't have the plate on the front.
And you had 2,000 pennies in your
vehicle. But the cop writes me a ticket because my insurance had expired the day before. We had just gotten back from vacation.
So you were a train wreck.
Yes. He wrote me up for improper registration of a motor vehicle because I live at 209 West 4th Street and the registration said 208 West 4th Street. Somebody misclicked. I didn't pay attention. Apparently it's my job to make sure it gets done. And then there was the no license plate thing, and there was something else. And I get the ticket, and I had to appear in court for this. I thought, are you serious? And they court costs and all this other stuff. And I said, you know what? We're going to fight crazy with crazy. I am going to take these pennies with me down to the courthouse, and you're going to waste my day, and I'm going to waste your day. And the day before I was supposed to appear in court, they called me up and said, if you just send us your registration and your updated insurance, we'll drop the charges. I'm like, oh, I was kind of looking forward to this. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't know what all that has to do with business, but there we go. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider, Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. Today, we are going to talk with Gary Tharnish because I went back, I was listening to, we interviewed you. It was about a year ago, and it was a 1-hour interview, and I had so many questions that I didn't ask, and I thought, let's do that. I also want to give a quick shout out to Home Design Real Estate Group. We don't give Home Design Real Estate Group a lot of love, even though they are a sponsor. They do sponsor the show. We appreciate it. So if you're buying or selling a house, real estate, it's a big decision. And trust me, you want to do more. You want more than just a part-time person representing you. So call Home Design Real Estate Group. Their team focuses on clear guidance, strong communication, and getting it done the right way. Hiring the wrong agent can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. Do yourself a favor. Call Shondell, Amy, or Gary, or go online, homedesignrealestategroup.com. We will be back talking with Gary.
We're listening to the 402 Business Insider, sponsored by James Arthur Vineyards. I'm Gary Tharnish with Travis Filing. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. And if you're just joining, again, this is the 402 Business Insider. You can find us at insider.com. Business Insider.
402insider.
402insider.com. Gee, one of those will work. So 402insider.com. You can sign up to be a guest there too, which is really cool. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, and you can normally join us on Saturday at 10:30, even though it's Sunday at about 10:20 right now. But usually Saturday 10:30. That's when we're on.
Yeah, we get preempted if there's basketball or football or baseball on the Saturday, and then we're on Sundays, which is great. Grab a cup of coffee, sit down, listen.
There we go. So today, like I said, we wanted to interview you because I went through, I was listening, and I thought, man, there are so many questions about you that I have that I just didn't ask, and I didn't have the answer to. So most people listening know you're a realtor. Obviously, they know you're a radio host, but you were a business owner first, right? Yep. And so looking back, because you were young when you bought that business.
Yeah,
How old
24.
were you? 24. It was funny because I was talking to Shannon and I go, oh my God, he was so young. And she goes, we were 27. It's like, oh my gosh, we were 27. That seems so young.
I know. The more seasoned you become, the younger it gets.
Yes. Yeah. I look at my son who's 22 and I go, gosh, is this guy ready to start his own business? I don't know. I don't think so. I would have said no, but I mean, here you are, a long-term successful business owner.
And he'd be great.
Started at 24. Yeah. But you started out in the flower industry prior.
Yeah.
Right. So did you start in high school?
So actually I did a ton of jobs before I even hit college. Mm-hmm. So paper route first. I was an employee at Valentino's when they just had Valentino's on 35th and Holdridge. They only had one.
Yeah, the original.
Way back when. I was 13. They had us working in the dough room. They ended up getting in a ton of trouble over it after a couple of years. I got enough money to buy my first drum set. But, oh gosh, I worked at Square D Factory cleaning bathrooms. I was an assistant manager at Pier 1 when I was 16 at night. That was my first time like in charge of 29-year-olds, 38-year-olds, and I was 16.
And you were 16.
This is funny.
Wow.
Yeah, so I guess I've been kind of bossy my whole life. That's how my family would look at it. But I did a lot of other jobs too, which I think was real good for me when I did become a business owner, that I'd done so many different things. But in my junior year of high school, my best friend's mom bought Field's Flower Shop. Field's Flower Shop was in College View. The previous owner, Eugene Field, his mom and dad owned a flower shop in Tecumseh, and he didn't want to stay in Tecumseh, so he moved here and opened a flower shop. He had it for a little over a year when his delivery driver came back from a delivery and bludgeoned him to death with a pipe and stole $50 out of the cash register.
The driver did.
Correct.
Ooh.
Yeah. And he's still in prison.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it was a horrific thing. Anyway, the place had been closed for 9 months. So she bought it and she knew I liked plants. And so she's like, would you come in after school and water plants and stuff? And I did that. And 3 weeks in, I come back from delivery. It's like 4:30 in the afternoon. It's Mother's Day week. And here's all these women in their 30s, 40s. And she was she was probably in her 40s, but these older women for me, right? I'm in high school, that are crying, they're panicky. I'm like, what's wrong with you guys? And they're like, we're never going to get all these orders done. And I'm like, well, I can help. They're kind of laughing like, yeah, right. And I go, well, I think I can make an arrangement. And so I made one and they gave me a stack of tickets and that's how it started.
And
after
away
that,
you
I
went.
filled orders. Yeah. So I had been doing that business in college. My first year I worked at Westbrook Music Building. It's now Clefcorn Music Building. Do I say that right? Clefcorn?
I have no.
Anyway.
I'm going to go with yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's that music building. I worked there my freshman year because I was a music major at the university, and then was hired by Terrell's, which was the largest shop in town. Worked there, and then found out I was going to be a dad, a surprise dad, and so ended up going. I need to be working full time. Went back to Field's Flower Shop and managed that for a while, and all of a sudden I was 24 and she had kind of been saying, I really want to sell the business, and I'm like, I want to buy it. And she was going along with that. And then the day after Valentine's Day, she goes, I'm not going to sell and you're fired. So I was like, wow, that's real surprising because I've been getting my financing in a row. I'd been going around town. It was a really traumatic thing. Anyway, so then I really start looking and get more intense. And Burton's Flowers, which was a flower shop on 56th and Highway 2, was for sale. And it had been open for maybe 4 or 5 years, but he had owned a flower shop in College View where Fields was prior to that in the 50s and most of the 60s. So he had a large clientele list. That was important to me.
Okay. So you were at Fields.
Correct.
Fields let you go while you were trying to buy it?
Yeah, so I was at Fields, and then I left there when I started college, and then I went to Terrell's and worked there for 2 or 3 years. Then I went back to Fields as a manager. She opened a second store. I managed one. And then she'd always talk about wanting to sell, and I was like, I want to buy. Because I was at a point at that age where I'm like, I'm a dad. Here's the highest I can get income level if I'm an employee somewhere. Right. But if I own it, sky's the limit. Right. So that was my thought and wanting to buy it. So I let her know that. I verbalized it. She's like, I really do kind of want to sell. This hasn't been exactly what I wanted to do. So essentially she led me on, which was shocking at the time. For like months, I was putting all my financing together. And then right after a holiday where I worked like 90 hours, by the way, on salary. She let me go. It was a very traumatic thing. And we became friends again 3 or 4 years later, and then ended up best friends for years.
Do you think she just got to a point where she panicked and went, maybe I don't really want to sell this business, and the only way out was to part ways?
I never tried to figure her out. I think she thought I would totally fail. Nobody would loan me money. I wouldn't find a place to buy, and I'd come back. That's what I thought, because she knew how much I loved it.
Right.
That's what I think happened.
Wow.
And instead, I bought the competitor that she most disliked.
Not on purpose.
Like it. Not on purpose, but that's just how it worked out.
That's just what was for sale.
Yeah.
So on the financing side, 24 years old, how did you get financing?
Well, I had no money.
Right.
So I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. So I worked with the owner who wanted to sell, and he financed half, and then I had to finance the other half through banks. I went through 7 banks, all saying no. I was very much, I'm going to continue this, which is nice at that point if you are thinking of buying a business. The one thing about buying an existing business is you can go in with P&Ls,
right,
and go, this is what it's doing. Can it also afford then a loan payment? Because then all of a sudden I'm going to have a loan payment, right? So can that be in there? So that helped. Finally, the 8th bank said, yes, we'll give you a 5-year loan, but a 3-year balloon.
Okay.
That we'll call if we want to. And then I paid the loan off 2 months before the 3 years.
Wow. Good for you.
So it worked out good.
And the good thing too with buying a business is the seller can bring some of that financing to the table as well, because it's not like they're actually putting up the money. They're just taking payments.
Yeah. And then they got some skin in the game too. Right. They want you to succeed.
Yeah. And did you, with the previous owner, did you kind of have some, hey, who was the previous owner?
Richard Burton.
Richard. Okay. So did you have kind of some running a business brand new going, hey, Richard, how do I handle this? Did he mentor you? Did he?
I did, until I fired him 4 months in.
Oh, okay.
Which is another story. I probably won't go into that, but it had to do with some improper things that were happening. Okay. But yes, he was a big help. But actually, my best friend had been working for him, so she knew an awful lot about that. And her parents owned a business in Fremont, a flower business in Fremont. So there was I had a lot of help from people that were in that business. So
you had a good. I don't know what the word is, like a good circle of influence, so to speak.
I did
within the industry.
Yeah, very much so.
Because that would be extremely helpful.
Yeah,
because if you're just trying to go hang out your shingle. Oh, there's a lot to learn. No matter what business you go in, there's an absolute ton to learn.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So that was in, what year was that?
86.
Okay.
1986.
Yeah.
And then I kept the name. It was Burton's Flowers at the time. I kept the name because my thinking at that point was, if I go to sell the business someday, it doesn't have my name on it.
Right.
Which was fine. And people knew that name.
Exactly.
Why throw it away?
Exactly.
Like you wouldn't want to buy Kellogg's and change it to Tharnish's
cereal. Right.
Who'd eat that?
That makes no sense.
Right.
Yeah. You have a built-in group of core buyers who go, oh, we always buy from Burton's, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Which I think is a brilliant, when you bought Terrell's, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but when you bought Terrell's, you just made it Burton Terrell's.
Right.
That makes sense, because
it worked out well. Yeah.
You're always going to have those people who they've always bought from Burton's. They have those people who always bought from Terrell's.
Right.
And let's keep the name. Let's keep those people knowing that they are going to get the same quality of service and product without question.
Yeah.
So, yeah. When you first bought this business, what scared you the most early on?
Well, just being able to make the payment.
Yeah.
That was really honestly my first thing. Like, I need to eat. I need to pay my rent. I need to pay my child support. I want to take care of my son. I had a very good rapport with his mom. And, those things probably scared me the most. I could see on paper that it could work, but still it was like, okay, now the buck stops with me. Right. So it's very, very different when you're getting a paycheck every couple of weeks. I'm trading my time for this pay. It's set. You know what it's going to be.
It's an agreement.
All of a sudden, when you own, you're trading your time and hoping that after everybody gets paid that's trading their hours for their pay, there's some for you. That I would say outright was my biggest fear.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's because, you get paid the most, but you get paid last. So when the well runs dry, there's no money.
Yeah. What a person that has never, if you're listening and you're thinking of being an entrepreneur, I do not want to scare you away from that.
No.
Because I think, follow your passion and your dreams. It's important. Actually, it's 2026. Everybody start dreaming. I think we forget to dream, especially when you're as seasoned as I am, ready to enter the lava rock years, which some people call golden. That's so screwed up. I think David's in his golden years in his 20s. Anyway, so I think that if you have that spirit of entrepreneurism, you'll do well. Just do your homework ahead of time so that you know what is happening and what's going on. If you are opening your own new business, so it's not an existing business, you definitely want to make sure you've done your homework, that you know what your competition is out there. It's not already saturated. And again, what's going to make you different? That's a tough question for most business owners.
Yeah.
Okay, there's 25 people selling widgets. What makes your business different with your widget that you're selling that everybody else sells?
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
That would be my biggest fear for sure.
And do you remember roughly how much you paid for the business?
God, I don't. It was not a lot. It was like maybe 55,000.
Okay. Well, but that'd be more.
But there was no building involved.
Yeah.
You know, it was just blue sky, accounts, the name. That's it.
But there's rent involved.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're still paying rent.
Yep.
Did you own a home at the time? So now here you are 24 years old and you are $150,000 in debt day one going, I've never owned a business in my life.
Yes.
And how are we going to get this done?
But I did have roommates who paid my entire mortgage plus. So that was nice.
That helps. That helps. Definitely do. If you have that option before starting your business, I would highly recommend it. I didn't have that option.
I love it. Well, we're going to have to go to a break here and stick with us and be with us on the other end here. And I'm going to give you a little outro about transformation marketing. Transformation marketing has been one of our sponsors since the get-go. Of course, it is your wife's business and you work there. So really it's you guys' business, but Shannon started it. I'm going to run into her again, so I don't want to mess that part up. But transformation marketing, we've talked on the radio show with you, Travis, and I interviewed you about marketing.
Yeah.
So what is you guys' webpage there?
It's transformationmarketing.com.
Okay.
So especially at the beginning of the year, now is the time to hire a professional.
Perfect.
And it's a free consultation. Call Shannon.
Yeah.
She will look through your marketing. It's not going to cost you a thing. And even if you don't use us, you're going to get some good insight and direction.
And stick with us through this break. Actually, stick with us for the 2 hours, because when we get to talk about marketing, I've got a lot to say about that when you buy a business.
Sounds good. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish, you're listening to the 402 Business Insider, and we will be back right after that. Back on the 402 Business Insider, this segment sponsored by the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce and Complete Family Dermatology. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We're talking with Gary about the young days when you first opened up your business, bought your business. So 24 years old, you're not bringing skills, you're not bringing experience, you're not bringing, because, business owning over the years kind of hardens you. You start getting those skills. What skill or skills did you have that you brought to the table at 24 years old?
Well, I would say first and foremost was a very good work ethic. Mm-hmm. My dad, mom taught me that, especially my dad. I mean, I knew that when you worked for someone, you worked hard, you worked fast, you focused on your job and nothing else. So even when I was cleaning 50 toilets every night at Square D Factory, which is now Snyder, I think, or whatever. Anyway, that's what I was doing. Of course, we didn't have cell phones back there, so I wasn't on my phone and I wasn't taking breaks. So I would say work ethic was my best skill. Might sound dumb, I don't know, but I mean, that was just probably my best skill. I had the design ability, very important in the creative business that I was in. And I always loved reading and studying about the brain and personalities. And I remember people like, what does that have to do with business? Well, we know it has everything to do with business. So I would say that was another skill I had. I was very good with people.
And that's really important. I mean, I would say work ethic is really high up on the list, especially starting your own business when it's just you. When you're a solopreneur, you do everything. And then you do everything else.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I showed up.
Yeah.
I showed up every day, usually before any of the employees got there. I was there. I was working. I was the last to leave. I mean, I practiced anything I would preach.
And I think there was an advantage being that age in the 80s, because you remember 70s, 80s, it was kind of a tough time. I mean, 86, we're starting to kind of come out of the whole early 80s, late 70s mess.
Which is when I bought 86. So,
yeah. And there weren't a lot of jobs. There were not a lot of jobs, and they weren't high paying.
No, and at that point, interest rates were coming down to like 11%. 12%. My first house was 17.125. I mean, it's crazy, right? So yeah, it was a very interesting time for sure. The 80s were just weird all the way around, really. Any of us that survived the 80s were just weird. We're here. We made it somehow.
David's over here nodding his
especially
head.
if your age. If we were your age, David, in the 80s, it's like if we're just alive, that's a good thing. Spandex went away and now it's coming back. That's very weird.
Oh, that is
but that's a big 80s thing. No, it was I think that all throughout anybody's lifetime in any business, you're going to have these ebbs and flows of political problems, presidents we don't like, presidents we do like, half of everybody likes this, half of everybody likes that. I think the key is to focus on what you do and do it well.
Yeah.
You know, people, they always say in politics that people vote local. You know, people buy local too. Now we have Amazon and everything now, so that's changing a bit, right? But you know, there's been several things, having bought a new house 3 months ago, a different house. It's an old home, but that, you know, I've had to go to the hardware store and, you know, I could have hopped online. I go, oh, I think this is what I need. But there's just something about, now I go during the week, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, because that's when the old timer, the seasoned guys like myself are there. That nothing against the younger ones, but often they'd be like, let me find somebody that knows. But, you know, there's something to be said about buying local. And especially back then in the 80s, that was a big deal. I mean, the 80s, there was no internet. You didn't go buy flowers anywhere else. You bought them locally, and the flower shops or grocery stores were just starting to carry a few plants. So I mean, it was a flower shop where you went. So that was all kind of baked in.
And we're definitely going to talk about that here coming up in a future segment.
Sure.
But so you brought a work ethic, you brought people skills to the table. What skills did you have to rapidly develop to be successful?
Marketing, for sure. Marketing scared the gajeebies out of me because it's one thing that no previous owner I worked for or the lady that owned the flower shop I was going to buy ever really shared with me any of the marketing thing. They talked a little bit about marketing, but they never shared like what the cost was. I had no idea what ROI meant. You know, I thought maybe it was a new soda. I didn't know. You know, so there's all sorts of that I didn't know. And I think that's actually when I started looking at what those numbers were, I was like, oh my God, you know, that's crazy. And because I'm real creative, I found a lot of very different types of creative ways to market. But anyway, that was probably one skill I didn't have. And then the biggest one I didn't have, and I still don't have today, is financial bookkeeping. I hate it. I hated it then. I wasn't good at it. And that would be one skill that if you are considering becoming an entrepreneur and you're listening now, know that if that's not your skill, that's totally okay. It's not for all of us, maybe 25% of the population max but you need to find that person if it's not you. And do it from the onset.
So what did you do to overcome that?
Faked it, messed around. I don't know that I ever really did that well.
But did you
I just
hire
kept trudging
somebody?
through.
Did you let somebody else do it?
Off and on I hired people, not always. And then when the internet did come out and then Quicken came out, I used Quicken at first. That was really handy for my business, small business, sole proprietor. You know, it handled everything I needed. When I bought Terrell's and went to 29 employees, then I had a full-time bookkeeper.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now is it Deb, right? Your first wife?
My sister.
Oh, your sister.
Deb's my sister.
Okay.
And I only had one wife. That was Carol. She worked for me for a while too, but I fired her.
Did you seriously?
Yeah. Like 6 months in, it was mutual. And then we were so much happier after that. Like she couldn't let me be king.
Because like in my business, Shannon and she gets numbers, she understands. There are so many things that she does that I am a horrible failure at, and vice versa. And so I always leaned on her to help me make sure she's handling the books and all of those things. Yeah. So I didn't know if Carol was part of the business or not part of the business.
Not part of the business. However, she's smarter than I am. And the reason I fired her was I didn't want to hear what she had to say, which was right, to be honest. Right. I mean, that's really what it was at the end of the day. So she was the better part of that deal, but it just wasn't a smooth situation.
Yeah.
And you could tell the people working there were kind of like, this is not like, you two are not meshing at all. So it worked better when I just dealt with everything at the shop. She dealt with everything at the home or worked somewhere else.
And most people can't work with a spouse.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
It really is tough.
Yeah.
And there does have to be a hierarchy. One person has to be the ultimate authority.
Yeah.
And the other person has to be okay with that.
And she didn't understand, no fault of her own. She hadn't worked in it. She did not understand perishable. when you work with a perishable product, it really changes everything. The other thing that's very different in the floral industry from most other businesses, and this was one where we had to educate people doing taxes and accountants. In the floral industry, you really are a manufacturer and a retailer. So in other words, I didn't buy 40 pre-made arrangements from some place ready to go that day. And when you called, I sold you one that was made. What I did instead is you would call and say, hey, Shannon, you know what she likes? Make her something.
Right.
So I manufacture it and then I sell it. That's a whole different component, right? And then everything I'm manufacturing with, all my widgets, all my, stuffed animals, toys, whatever, weren't that. They were a perishable product, right? So if you look at a grocery store, for example, right? Of course they have a perishable product, right? What do they send you through first in the grocery store? The perishable product.
Right.
You always walk right through the produce first and then into the meat and then everything else. Why? Because they know they want to hook you on that right away because it's going to expire. So in my business, we had plants. They can expire. They just had, but much longer shelf life, right? Than a flower. So that was hard to that was probably one of the hardest things for people I hired to understand the importance of first in, first out, keep track of your product. How old is it? And all those kind of things.
See, and that would be difficult too, just because you get a phone call from somebody and you don't have all of these options just pre-manufactured, so to speak. Like my wife loves tropical flowers. So you don't know if I'm going to call today or not.
Right.
So you can't just have some tropical arrangement sitting there because how long does it last in the cooler? Maybe a week?
Yeah.
2 weeks?
It depends on the type of flower, but yeah, about a week.
But yeah, you can't hold on to it for so long because then I get it. I go home in 3 days, it's dead. That doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah, that would be extremely difficult. Well, we have a heartbreak coming up here, so let's run to that real quick. Want to give a quick shout out to Barry Law. We appreciate them sponsoring. They are nationally known and recognized for representing veterans. See, now it's contagious. You have trouble. I have trouble. They represent veterans and individuals in complex legal cases, known for standing up for veterans and clients who need strong advocates when the stakes are high. Barry Law, trusted legal representation with a mission to serve. Learn more at jsbarrylaw.com. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish, you're listening to the 402 Business Insider Sunday edition, and we will be back talking more with Gary right after this.
Well, hello, you're listening to the 402 Business Insider. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. If you're just tuning now, I'm Gary Tharnish. My co-host is Travis Filing, and our guest today is, voila, it is me. We're interviewing me about how I got started in business, which I had for 38 years, and it's kind of been fun. It's a good idea, Travis.
Yeah, I enjoy talking business, and it's funny because during the break, we were talking about, your daughter listened to the show and she goes, oh my gosh, I had no idea you knew all these things.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, when you're a business owner, you learn a lot of things quick.
So many.
Because even if you do hire certain things out, you still have to have a knowledge to make sure that they're doing a good enough job.
Yeah.
Doing your books or doing whatever it is you're hiring them to do. So owning a business, it's a lot.
Yeah,
it is a ton. I kind of attribute it to like a farmer. I've never farmed in my life, but farmers have to know a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they got to know marketing. They got to know weather. They've got to know so many things.
Market.
Yeah. You got to be trading commodities. You have to know so many things. You can rely on people who are good or better, but you still have to know it.
Yeah.
So going back into Burton's, what did you bring? What did you learn from previous owners? You said it was Richard Burton?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a famous name, by the way? Is there a Richard Burton?
There is a Richard Burton that was an actor. This is not that Richard Burton, but
not
yes,
that Richard Burton.
That is why you know that. There's also a very famous marimbist by the name. So marimba, xylophone.
Okay.
And so I was a percussion major. I play marimba. There's a very famous marimbist by the marimba player, marimbist, I guess you could say, that was a Richard Burton. So
when there's a lot of with your music friends, you could go, hey, Richard Burton. I fired Richard Burton. And people who know actors.
God, I
fired
shouldn't
Richard
have even
Burton.
said that on the air, but anyway.
But what did you learn from him when you started taking over the business? Like, wow, I like how he did this, or I don't like how he did this. Obviously, there was something you didn't like because you fired him, but
I liked his approach, his consistent approach to keeping track of numbers. I liked that. I didn't pick it up and do it. I would say. And I wish in retrospect that would have been my flash sign to say, get somebody in here right now to work numbers so that you don't have to mess with that late at night when everything's done. Because again, working with a perishable product, everything was timing, had to be done in a certain time. That had to be taken care of first before anything else. So at the end of the day, if buckets need to be washed and cleaned, flowers need to be recut so they last and they're good quality, those things were all done before anything else would happen. So the numbers always went to the back. In retrospect, he always did that first and made it work somehow. I just didn't observe it well enough. But I would say what I learned from him the most was what I didn't do. But in retrospect, that really impresses me now when I see it. And I go, man, he was really on target with that.
Now, when you bought the business and when you got rolling into it, did you have a lot of collaborative relationships? Because I knew that you made a lot of collaborative relationships with different businesses, industries, and so forth.
Yeah. One thing I did right off the bat was join any kind of association I could find related to my business. And I began networking before networking was popular. I would always try to put myself in places where something was happening in town. I signed up right away in 1987, I believe it was, when they came out with, I don't even remember who was mayor at the time, but when they came out with the community congress, they called it. And there were like 12 different committees that you could be on, working on the future growth plan for the city, the 50-year growth plan. I got on that right away. So I met a lot of people, volunteered every place I could, tried to get on boards when I could right away. That was a little harder when I was younger. I think now we're much more apt to go, like in a heartbeat, I'd bring somebody David's age, a young 20-year-old, 20-something person into a board more so than it was popular back then. Back then, it was very much more still, it was just, yeah, it wasn't as popular back then. So I kind of like brought myself into a lot of those situations.
So is that how, because I know for the longest time, you did a lot of work for UNL.
Yeah.
You sold a lot of flowers and plants. And is that how you got that particular relationship built? Was just through...
So UNL had, so there's tons of colleges at UNL, right? So different colleges, there's people working in each college, right? So certain colleges might have a flower shop that they used when someone was sick, or there was a death by one of the employees had a death, or one of the professors, whatever the situation, one of life's occasions, right?
Right.
Every department had something. So I actually bought several of those, right? Because when I bought Burton's flowers, he had actually bought another shop in town that had been here for like 25 years. So some of those were built in. My connection with the university that really blossomed and became huge was in the early 2000s when I had a relationship with a caterer who did a lot for the university, then introduced me to different people and so on and so forth. And that's when that really grew to just explode.
Did you do anything to just kind of keep in front of them, just to foster those relationships, to make sure they knew, hey, I'm still
lunches.
Here. All right.
I'd take the powers to be to lunch. A lot of HR people and companies go to lunch, call them, make sure that the communication was kept that way. Every once in a while, send them flowers as a thank you. That's an amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, women happen to really, really, really
like that. Yes.
Well, men too. Now, I think men like flowers. Men will admit that they like flowers more than we used to be ever before. Ever before it was such a negative thing. But, that was a real positive thing. I always think if you have a business that's edible or visual or something like that, that should always be part of your marketing plan, right? Like I think of Erica over at Chocolate Seasons. It's amazing that when she came in for a radio show, she brought her product, right? That is so smart.
Yeah.
So if somebody has a birthday, send that product, right? I mean, who doesn't like chocolate? So I sent a lot of flowers.
So this kills me because I went in and I saw Erica the other day. This was probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We interviewed her in the summer.
Yeah.
Right. And so I went in there and Shannon, one of our clients, was doing a massive promotion. She goes, hey, I need about, I think it was $400 or $500 worth of $25 gift cards. I go, yeah, well, let's go to the chocolate season because they're local. I always try and buy stuff local if possible. And I walked in there and she was in the back and I just kind of gave her a wave and she came out. Hey, Travis, how you doing? Yeah. And I'm not that memorable. Right.
That's not true. So, you're hard to forget. I try all the time. Anyway, go ahead.
And so she was really sweet. And she goes, do you want a chocolate? She goes, you want a chocolate.
See, there you go.
I do want a chocolate. And she goes into the back and she comes out with that dragon fruit thing. She goes, I know this was your favorite. Here you go.
See, she remembers that.
I thought, oh my gosh.
One thing we did is every time a kid came in, if they were, say, it didn't really matter the age. Usually by the time teenage boys didn't care, but teenage girls did. But even little kids, we'd always let them go in the cooler and pick out a flower, any flower they want. And while they're in there, I'd say, well, what are you going to do with it? Can I give it to my mom? Yeah, you can give it to your mom. And then they'd walk out and give it to their mom. That kid, was coming back to do prom flowers,
you bet.
Wedding, you name it.
The two things that I throw in that always made an impact, I still, to this day, even all of our guests on the 402, I write them a handwritten note card, a thank you card. Thanks for coming in. You did a great job. We appreciate you. Because nobody does that anymore.
I write 2 every day.
You have to.
Yep.
If you're a small business owner, write a thank you card to somebody because you have no idea the impact.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought was a brilliant marketing piece, there was a insurance agent. This was back, 15, 18 years ago. He would send my kids a $2 bill on their birthday.
Nice.
And it's $2, right? Plus a birthday card. Well, kids, if you gave me $2, $5, hey, I'd be appreciative, but it's not going to go over the moon. But my kids went nuts for it. Because they got mail. That's still a big thing for young people.
Yeah.
They got a $2 bill because who's ever seen a $2 bill? And what did it cost you? $2. And I still remember the guy and his name to this day because he made an impact, and that was a cheap piece of marketing.
Yeah.
All he had to do is print up a bunch of birthday cards with his logo on it, and then he hand signed it, and off he went. Now, where's the first place your kids are going to go when they need insurance on their own? They're going to go either to your guy or to the guy who made an impression. Yeah. It was a really good piece of marketing. Want to give a quick shout out to Red Rhino Roofing. Thank them for sponsoring the show. When it comes to protecting your home or building, quality matters. Quality's all that matters when it comes to that protection. And Steve at Red Rhino, he's been working on my roofs for over 20 years. Before I buy a house, before I buy a building, I call Steve at Red Rhino. He climbs up there. I had a tenant the other day. They wanted to put a vent through the roof on one of my buildings. No problem. Here's Steve's number. You got to call Steve. He's the only one authorized to work on any of my buildings or houses. So give him a call. Steve is down there, and he runs Lincoln. You have Ben. He runs Omaha. Or you can just go online to redrhinoroofs.com. You will be glad you did. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We'll be back right after this. And thanks for sticking with us. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider Sunday edition. Hour number 2 firing off right here, and we are talking with Gary Tharnish. Gary Tharnish, of course, my co-host, longtime business owner, and now real estate agent, radio host. I'm sure a laundry list of several other things that you do. And this is time for 5 takeaways. I really enjoy this segment of the show just because it's 5 things that people can take away and apply to their business on tomorrow morning. So this is sponsored by Nebraska Farmers Network. We're going to talk a bit about them at the end of this segment. So let's roll into 5 takeaways. What's the first thing that pops into your mind for people who are looking to buy a business, start a business, and you're young? What are some of those lessons we want to start?
I would say the number one lesson is buying an existing business is way different than starting one.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of different things. I'd say that's the number one lesson. Decide that. Are you going to buy an existing business? A lot of people say, well, they're not for sale. Every business is for sale.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah, it's always a conversation starts there. So if that's something you'd rather do, kind of think about that. So let's talk about what the difference of that is, right? In my opinion, at the time I was going to buy a business, I did look at starting my own business, and I was like, man, I have no name recognition. I had been working in that industry already. Hang on, I have to do math. 8 years. I'd already been working in the business 8 years. So I knew a lot of people in the business knew me because I was very active with it and got to know people right away, starting with the delivery people to the wholesalers, the whole ball of wax. So that was good. But the general public had no idea who I was, and there was plenty of competition. So for me, I thought, okay, I have no money to start. So I'm going to go into a bank and say, hey, I have this pipe dream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I've got all the tobacco in the pipe. Do you want to light it? They're not going to lend me any money. They're going to go find a lighter somewhere else, which did happen with 7 banks, by the way, first before one gave me a loan. But anyway, back to that point, for me, I was like, buying existing business makes much more sense in that case. So everybody's going to kind of have a different, view there. Today, it's very easy to research. I mean, you can just ask Chat GP to do it. And in 20 seconds, you're going to have an overview of exactly what you're up against in your market, whether you're going to open or not. Back then I didn't. But that said, also the negatives of buying an existing business or could be negatives are it's been running under somebody else's name by somebody else for a while. Now, all of a sudden you're the new guy. So what do we always talk about in business, right? People do business with people that you like. Then that person can earn your trust. But if you don't like them first, so what happens if they love this previous owner and you come in all of a sudden, you haven't worked there, you come in all of a sudden and now you're the new guy and it's like, well, who are you? You're gaining it again. So the challenge is how do you retain those customers that have been there? Lots of factors to look at in that, correct? What I did is I worked for him for 3 months before I bought it. So I was answering the phone, talking to the customers. They knew who I was before I bought it.
Yeah.
That'd be my first takeaway.
I would think too that buying a business, especially when because we've bought businesses, but we've taken them into the fold, so to speak. Right. I mean, we bought a business that they did programming. Well, we do a lot of programming. We just subbed it out. We bought a business. We brought it in-house. So it's different. But I'm thinking if you're a brand new business, all the relationships that you had to forge from scratch, that's all built into the mix, right? So you don't have to go and forge a relationship with flower companies and delivery companies and things like that. That's got to be a tremendous advantage.
Yeah. I mean, Emeritus, State Farm, all these businesses were already ordering on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Right. One thing I did in the first few years is I go introduce myself to everybody that was actually doing the ordering at these different businesses. Sometimes it was the receptionist, sometimes it was the head of the HR, whatever. I went and personally introduced them. They always let me go back to wherever their office was because I was carrying flowers for them.
Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, you're going to make somebody's day. Right. In times when I couldn't get past the receptionist, I'd bring two. One for that person and then so I could get back.
That's good. That's smart business.
Yeah, that's part of retaining that, and I knew, like I said earlier, and we'll get to this, I didn't know much about marketing, but I did know that I had a product that people liked. So putting that in their hands can go a long way.
Yeah, that opens doors. So what's the second takeaway?
I like systems beat passion. I kind of like that a little bit and I don't like it a little bit. So for me, I was extremely passionate about what I was doing. I was very creative. I had wanted to play for the Chicago Symphony. Now all of a sudden, I'm still playing drums and I'm in a band and stuff, but that's not going to happen. So what is my new dream? And it really needs to be creative because I'm incredibly creative. So I'm like, this is an avenue for me to be very artistic with a medium that a lot of people don't ever get to use, right? We think it's just flower arrangements, but I really got into the flower art part of it, right? But then how do you make that profitable, right? And how does that work? I was over good with the passion and under good with the process. So it took a while to mesh those two together on the same plane, right? That did not happen automatically. And so I would say if you're buying an existing business and there is a creative component to it, a perishable component to it, a in-person component to it, in other words, a handyman business where you're going to be out creating with your hands and working. If you're buying that type of a business, don't heavily focus on that if it's already established business, right? I'm a handyman. I've been doing it on the side forever. I love it. I'm going to now buy this handyman service that has 5 employees, and Jack the handyman has been doing it for 35 years, right? Well, all of a sudden, if you show up at the house and you're not Jack, you're David or Gary or Travis, who are you, right? So those are things to think about. I was weaker on the process and much stronger on the passion. I really think it needs a mesh of both, to be honest. If you can try to get that to mesh is really, really good.
And I think if you do, systems first, you'll get passionate about what it is that you do.
Yeah.
Because passion can be fickle. I always think of Mike Rowe. He said, just because you're passionate about something doesn't mean you're not going to suck at it.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So, and that's important.
Oh, yeah.
I
did suck at process at first, for sure. Yeah. It's very true.
You have to have that system in place. I really do like that. What's the third takeaway that you have for us?
There's so many different takeaways, but I think for me buying an existing business, the experience that those customers had and the experience they were going to have for me was critical. I would look at it as I got one chance. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they're not going to give you a second chance because there's 12 other places they can go in town, right? It's the same in real estate business now, right? I mean, they can like you can earn your trust, but if you mess up, there's 12 other. An average person knows 7 realtors. They have plenty of choice, right?
Right.
So I think customer experience, what you bring to the table, the value, all of that is so vitally important. And when you are buying an existing business, you go under a microscope, right? And they're checking it all out every time, so you cannot mess up.
Yeah, because how many times do you think of some business under new management, or it's going to change? How's it going to change? You as a consumer, you get a little bit nervous, and you do put people under a microscope.
Yeah.
Would you say this is, because again, when we've bought businesses, we don't change anything for at least 3 months, 4 months, 5 months,
right?
Just to kind of get a feel for how things are going. Is that something that you did when you?
Well, yeah, I didn't really change anything there, really, actually, for quite a while. Now that I think about it, that wasn't true when I bought Terrell's in 2001. That's a whole different story.
Sure.
But because they closed down their building. But I mean, I kind of kept everything the same, see where it was going, what was headed, what did it look like? I knew of these accounts and I'd seen them, but I hadn't talked to the people. I didn't know what our customers were like that were ordering on a regular basis. Funeral homes that were ordering the flowers, huge connection that you want to keep. I didn't know these people personally. There was a lot of that. I let that develop organically.
Sure. Yeah. And
made sure it did.
Yeah.
And, business is kind of like tending to a garden. If you don't weed,
you're
going to suck.
You're going to have a mess.
Yeah.
You're going to have a total mess on your hands.
Right.
And you're essentially going to have to eventually get out the tiller and just put everything under.
I love it. And this segment will be.
That's right. Do we have some
weeding your business?
That's right.
I love it. Right. Somebody's your competition comes after you with roundabout.
So okay. So we have buying a business is different than starting one. We have systems beat passion. I love that one. Customer experience is your only defense. What is your fourth takeaway?
Okay. So know when growth helps and when it hurts. I love this one, right? Because growth just for the sake of growth is not going to be good a lot of the time. Same as change just for the sake of change is not good. If you're going to make a change, make sure it's needed, that it will benefit. How will it benefit? Will it hurt? Something else that you used to do and you're not doing all of a sudden? Those things are all really, really important, right? So for me, growth, I'm going to jump to something here. I'm dealing with a person now in real estate business who is scaling so fast they suck. Let me word it that way. So growth has to be thought out. It has to develop systematically. Your processes have to be in place. You have to make sure you maintain your process. It's really easy for a client or a customer to take over your process, right? I'm going to go over to real estate now, but that happens so obviously in real estate. There's a process.
It happens in all businesses. We call them shooting stars.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
Good description.
Like, wow. And you see this shooting star and all of a sudden they fizzle out because they can't keep up with it.
Yeah. Yeah. The normalcy and regular things that have to happen become so mundane after a while that, they see a shooting star. I love that. Right. So, I mean, I think it's important that I knew I wanted to grow. And I knew I first had to get a grip on what do I have now? What's my base? Where am I at right now? So I'm like, before buying more land, if I'm a farmer, am I able to do this now? Now, if I buy more, what do I need? Who do I need? What does that look like? Do I need more space, more whatever? Something else we didn't talk about, by the way, is that when I bought Burton's Flowers, we already had a second location. We had a second location in the over where our Dan's used to be in East Park. There was a little area that was kind of transitional, a hall. It's bigger than a hallway, but there were a lot of little businesses. There's a little bank, and I had a flower shop there. So, that was another thing about growth. Like, I closed it down after a while because we really started tracking it. It's like, this is not profitable. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to hear people say, "Oh, we saw you over at our Dan's." I didn't know anything. It was cool that I had a second location. It's kind of cool at 25. Ooh, cool. Right. And then you start looking at the numbers, go, this is like not cool at all. Right. Like, it's just sucking food off my table.
We opened an office in Omaha because we thought, oh, we're big time now. We had employees in Omaha, open an office in Omaha. It was bleeding us dry.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. In part because it's not you.
Yeah.
Really.
That is a big part of it. And it's hard. You're managing it from a distance.
Right.
And that can be very, very difficult.
And that's what it was with the second location.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. If you're not there, if you don't have your hand on it or have somebody who you trust who can handle it and run it like it's almost like it's its own independent business, then you're going to lose money, most likely. What's our last takeaway?
The one that's written down here that we talked about is exiting a business isn't part of the plan. Of course, I didn't think about that for years. I had my shop for 38 years.
Yeah.
It was never really a part of my plan. However, retrospectively, I'm sitting here thinking, I don't, when we were doing show prep, I think something came up too about, was there ever a time you wanted to sell your business or would you do things differently? I never really liked that question in life. We get it a lot, right?
Yeah. But
it's kind of like everything I've done up to this point has made me who I am now. Right. So, I'm somewhat successful in spite of all that.
Yeah.
But if I could go back and change some things, sure. What I know about real estate now, it's like, David, become a realtor. You can do a lot of other stuff while you're doing it, but it can be a great income if you treat it like a business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun to work with people if that fits in your wheelhouse, right? But there were times in my business process, in the years I had the business, I think mid-90s, for example, so I'd now had the business 10 years, where I had an opportunity that I turned down that I now think if I would have accepted that, my trajectory would have been, well, of course it'd be different, but I think it might have been better. But it also wouldn't have got me to meet Shannon and to meet you and be here now where I've met David. I mean, all those things mattered, right? But I never really had a plan for exiting my business, mainly because I'd be like, I can't sell the shop now because I promised Travis I'd do his daughter's wedding next year. He's going to kill me if I do. You know, there's always a reason why I couldn't. COVID just happened to make it really easy to finally do it. Yeah. But I do think I have a friend right now who wants to sell their business. They've been around 18 years. If I said the name of the business, you'd know it right off the bat. The problem was they bartered their life away. They did so much bartering where you do this for me, I can do that for you, back and forth. Now they're wanting to do a valuation of the business. It's fairly worthless. Now, is it a worthless business? No. If you looked at what the book could be of their sales, it would be fantastic, but it's not. So you can't sell, so now again, you're selling the pipe dream. I've got a pipe full of tobacco. You got a lighter? Here, it's yours. Give me $1 million.
Several years ago, this was right at COVID, and there was a little hotel. It was a little 10-room hotel on the beach in Florida. Okay. And they were trying to sell, I think they were asking $1.8 million or something like that. And I told Shannon, I go, yeah, this is a perfect fit for us. It was prime location. It was on the beach. We could turn this into 10 little condos or 10 little, Airbnbs or something like that. Yeah. It was perfect. The problem was this guy's business plan was written on a cocktail napkin. Yeah. And I go, I'm not joking. It was literally on, just a couple of sheets of paper written out.
I know you hear it all the time.
I can't take this to a bank and go, loan me 1.5 of this $1.8 million, because no bank is going to go, yeah, this looks like a great opportunity.
Sorry, this piece of the napkin's wet. What does it say?
You wiped your mouth on this. I can't read that. What does that say?
Yeah, I know, it's very true. And I see so many businesses like that they're just like, oh, I want to sell, well, have you done a valuation of your business? Yeah. This guy came in, we hired him to come and look at it and everything. And I just disagree with it completely. It's worth a lot more than that. And I go, well, our blue sky is always worth so much more,
sure,
I think, right? But you have to think about what a lot of people don't think as well in buying an existing business is that buying an existing business, you have the P&L. Starting one, you don't. Mm-hmm. Bankers love P's and P&Ls.
Yes, right? They do.
That's it. That's the guiding force of what's going to happen. Now, in that P&L, if you're buying an existing business, can it afford a payment? Because now you're going to have a payment if you're borrowing money.
Yeah, that's something
There's
else.
a lot to consider. So did this hotel you really like down there, were there no vacancies all the time? Were they very rarely had a vacancy? It's just a lot.
Well, and when you think of a bank, and we got to get Dallin in here from Western National and talk to him, because
I love that.
Bankers really don't loan money; they assess risk.
Right, exactly.
And that's what they're doing. When they take a look at a business, there's a group right now that's selling all their rental properties for like $10 million. Do I want a piece of that? Yeah, you bet. And they go, they all cash flow. Well, for you, they cash flow. But once I write a check, are they going to cash flow for me? Right. I mean, and then I have to take that to a bank and they go, okay, let's assess my risk, because it's really their money. Right. That we're taking to the casino.
Their depositors'
not mine.
Money.
Right.
It's a lot of people's money.
Yeah, it's my future, but it's their money.
Yeah.
So, well, that was 5 takeaways. Very good stuff. Brought to us by, why did I just draw a blank? Nebraska Farmers. See, I do have too many sheets of paper here. We were just talking about, we have so many sheets of paper, we have to go through everything. And I always lose one. But 5 takeaways, sponsored by Nebraska Farmers Network. Want to thank them for sponsoring the show. NFN exists to support Nebraska farms and ranches through education, advocacy, and connection. It's about strengthening agriculture and the communities that depend on keeping Nebraska farms Nebraska-owned. Go check them out. I'm serious. NebraskaFarmersNetwork.com. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We're going to be back with Gary talking more about his business right after.
I'm Gary Tharnish. My co-host Travis Filing is here with me today. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider on our Sunday edition. I hope you're having a great Sunday morning. Thanks for tuning in and listening. This segment is sponsored by Western National Bank. And of course, today we're talking with me. Travis is interviewing me about my business career, which is kind of fun. And this segment's called The Unexpected Impact. He's gonna ask me some questions about unexpected impacts I had in my business. I kind of have an interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's just cut right to it.
Okay. So I think my biggest unexpected impact, other than some of the obvious ones, COVID, 9/11, all those are kind of obvious. But my most unexpected one was a period in my business where business was going well. We had a lot of business, but there were just seemed like small mistake after small mistake after small mistake after big mistake after it was getting worse and worse and worse. Mm-hmm. And things just were not going well. And the impact was really starting to show more so than on sales or dollar amounts on staff.
Like morale?
Oh, morale was way low. The culture had become corrupted is how I would word it.
Okay.
There was a bad apple somewhere and I was going to find it. And one day was a breaking point. I get a telephone call. It's the funeral home. We don't have a casket spray there for a visitation that needs to be there. And we can't even find the order. And I'm just, I go, we'll get it there. I storm out of my office. I make this really quick. We get it off. It got there in time. Barely we made it. But then I'm like, I'm like too nice to a fault a lot and probably developed way too many friendships with my employees than I should. And I like to dish it out and I can't take it. And I tend to be a crybaby. And but now I'm mad. And that happens once every millennial for me, or maybe twice a year. I'm not often. So I'm in my office, I barrel out and I go, all right, everybody, put your tools down. I don't want to hear a damn word. Shut up and listen. I don't know what's going on here. And I just lay into it, but this has to stop and da. At the time, I had hired a woman, Ann Cavalieri is her name now. Mm-hmm. God rest her soul. Her and Don were two nicest people in the world. They used to own radio stations here in Lincoln. Mm-hmm. And I advertised on their stations, but I hired her because she was wealthy. And so she was my salesperson on the phone and up front. Why? Because wealthy people sell higher ticket volumes, right? Anyway, she was great. So she's across the room while I'm doing this, right? Maybe 25 feet. And I'm talking to teenagers, your wife's age when she was in high school, and some college students and a few of these people that were my age and older. And she just comes marching across that room and she grabs me by my ear and drags my butt in the office and sits me down in the chair in there. And she goes, I'll tell you who the damn problem is. It's you. And I was like, what? I don't say any of this, but in my mind, I'm thinking, you grabbed my ear and you drug me in there like I'm some little kid, and I'm like, okay, I was like having a little temper tantrum that a 2-year-old has when he can't get the candy, but I was like, I kind of looked at her and she goes, I'm sorry, I just did that in a way. She goes, but really, you're the problem. She says, nobody here knows what's going on. Here's what we're talking about. What's with him all the time? He's stressed out. He's not whatever. So back to that growth question, we were growing way too fast and I was not handling it well. Mm-hmm. So I had a long conversation with her, ended up talking with her husband that night, went to have dinner with them because he was a very successful business person, because you need a coach. You need to get somebody in here to start from scratch with you first. We brought a coach in, had her for a year. I've talked about this before on the radio show. So people that listen regularly, I'm not going to bore you to death, but we ended up getting the whole staff involved. So from that moment of just stuff not going right over and over again to looking a year later was night and day difference. And Shannon would have come and worked for me after that all happened. Mm-hmm. So it was just night and day difference.
Well, and little problems are not a big deal unless they keep happening. So when I see a little problem in the business, I pay attention to it. Okay, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And can we give it just a nice little course correction to get it back? Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, we call it quicksand, right? Because
there you go.
You have a little problem, and here's another one, and next thing you know, you're in it up to your eyeballs. And now I don't want to say it's too late, but now you need to make major surgery to get this problem fixed.
Yeah. At the time, we called it the slight edge. We needed to have a slight edge. What was that? Our focus, our visual focus was a plane taking off from LA and getting on autopilot and it's heading to New York. It is constantly making little minor adjustments so that it's going to end up in New York and not Charlottesville, South Carolina.
Because if you're 1 degree off, you're 100 miles off at the other end.
Right, right, at the end. So that was kind of our focus. There's a really good book called The Slight Edge. Ken, and I can't think of his last name as the author. There's 2 books with the exact same name, by the way. One's good, one's bad. But in the Slight Edge book, he really goes into detail about that and bringing that into your life and everything. That the little changes that you make now and keeping your focus on that distant goal and getting there. And does this activity I'm going to do, process I'm going to start, change does it get me off course, or is your eye on that end goal? That kind of became our focus, but bringing it to an airplane and how it flies is a great visual.
Yeah, it's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And I love this because usually when we do this needs an adjustment, it's a major adjustment that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And you can negate those major adjustments if you would have made those slight course corrections early on.
Yeah. One of the things I learned right off the bat, this is so beneficial to any entrepreneur and any business owner, is always remember that knowledge is power. And sometimes as business owners, we want to keep that knowledge, something that we know about internal, until we either fix it or make it better or whatever. And that can grow on you, whether it's a financial challenge or a product vendor problem or a series of employee challenges you've had, and you're just keeping those in and keeping those in. They build and they build. Whereas if we started having regular team meetings and I would share everything. Hey, you guys, I'm stressed about money this month. It's a slow time of year. I didn't plan well, or my plans didn't work, whatever it might be. We're going to have cash flow challenges. We need to come. And people are like, let's do this special. I think and they helped, right? But I had kind of been internalizing a lot of things. So if you are buying a business, always remember that knowledge is power, even if it's going to make you feel ashamed or feel like you did something wrong or that you're not a good business person, because the people that are working for you want you to succeed, or they wouldn't be there. I feel like anyway, if they don't want you to succeed, they shouldn't be there anyway.
Yeah.
But
well, I think, do you ever watch what's the Gordon Ramsay show, the restaurant,
nightmares.
Nightmares.
Yes.
Kitchen Nightmares.
Yeah.
You see
he's
these
brutal.
people. Oh, he's brutal, but
so right.
I love him to death.
Yeah.
When I first saw him, I'm like, who is this guy? I wouldn't take this crap from this guy. And then you start watching, you go, this guy's pretty on it. But something that you said made me think of this, in that you see these employees. I haven't had a paycheck in a month. I haven't had a paycheck in a month and a half. And I'm sitting here going, whoa, get out. But these people so desperately want you to succeed that they're willing to take on some of this hardship. And I think that's a little crazy.
And they don't know you're going through that.
Right.
That's the important thing.
Especially if you're not sharing, they're not going to help you get out of it if they don't know you're going into it.
Right.
And yes, knowledge is power. I absolutely love that, because if you can share, everybody wants credit. They want to hold on to this knowledge, and then then they unleash it and they look brilliant.
That's almost kind of a trademark.
Yeah. But if you were to just share it, who cares who gets the credit?
Right.
Because in the end, your business is going to win.
Exactly.
We're all going to win. I don't care if I get credit or not.
I'm thinking of the Husker basketball team right now, right? I'm listening to the announcers the other day when I don't remember who they were playing. It doesn't really matter. But, and he said, this is the most selfless team I've seen in a long time. And a lot of their successes, they don't care who's getting the points and the numbers and the recognition. Mm-hmm. We've got 8 players already that have all scored, and he goes, it's their success. It's like the other team can't concentrate on one guy, or one group or 2 guys or whatever, because everybody is passing to everybody and helping everybody. And I thought that's how a business needs to operate.
Yeah.
Right. When you have the point guard being the business owner and is going to hold the ball all the time and want to control everything, it's not really going to work because everybody else doesn't know what you're doing. Now, I know there's a lot more to basketball. I can't even dribble a damn basketball. We could go down that whole road on another show. Mm-hmm. But the point I thought was, man, that's a good business lesson also.
Do you ever, you're not a big sports guy, are you?
I love college football, and I like college those two, but college football is really the only thing. Yeah, I'm not a huge sports guy. Played baseball I was in high school.
Okay. Well, there was I can't remember if it was 30 for 30 or ESPN. I can't think of what, but they did a show on the 1987 NFL when the strike happened.
All right.
And it was all about strike football.
I do remember that.
And it was how there was a movie made about it. Keanu Reeves, when he went back and played football, it's very loosely based on a true story of the Washington Redskins and how this team, they were a bunch of nobodies that weren't in the league. And they actually beat the Dallas Cowboys, the actual Dallas Cowboys, not the strike Cowboys, the real team, because they had crossed this picket line. And it's how here's a group of nobodies functioning together and don't care who gets the credit, win against professional athletes. Yeah. It's a really fascinating. I need to do a better job of thinking of the show and telling you, but it's worth watching.
That same concept, because I do consider college football to be a business, period. Mm-hmm. We see it, of course, totally now with NIL.
Oh, big time.
But that's one of my big problems with the NIL. It's become so much more like professional football, but that can be taken right down to business as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Well, you're listening to the 402 Business Insider. I want to thank the UPS stores of Lincoln for sponsoring the show. For business owners, the UPS store, it's more than shipping. They do printing, they do mailboxes, signs, brochures. We used them to print a magazine at our ad agency, several actually. They do paper shredding. They can help with logistics. They actually save you time. So if you run a business, everything you need to run your business can be found at the UPS store. They're truly a great local resource. 5 Lincoln locations. Go check them out, theupsstore.com. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We're talking with Gary Tharnish, and we're going to have more for you right after this break. On the 402 Business Insider, Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish, talking with Gary Tharnish. The last segment was This Needs an Adjustment, and I read the wrong copy because, we get to this 2-hour, and Steve goes, hey, would you do 2 hours on Sunday? Yeah. Oh, heck yeah, we'll do 2 hours on Sunday, and then we're a hot mess. And
well, the problem is we're human.
That's right.
You're so human, Travis.
That's right. Well, This Needs an Adjustment was sponsored by Ascend Chiropractic. In business, when there's time, you need to make an adjustment, be it in your business or in your body. Do it before things get out of hand, just like we were talking the airplane, right? Make a course correction now. Go see the chiropractor before you miss New York by 100 miles and you're in a wheelchair. Did that even make sense?
It did. Yes.
Everybody's nodding their head like I'm some genius. But yeah, we want to thank Ascend Chiropractic. Go check them out, ascendchiropracticne.com. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring the show. 2 more segments to go here. Something that I wanted to talk about was kind of the reinvention, so to speak. You decided to sell the business, and that was during COVID. What was that like emotionally? Because it was 38 years that you own the company.
Yep.
My gosh, that's got to be like saying goodbye to a child or a parent, or you know what I mean? That's got to be extremely difficult.
For me, it was like I'd been pregnant for 38 years and I finally gave birth and could move on. And the kid graduated high school right away. So it was
right
empty
out of
nest.
the womb.
No, it was a combination of everything. It was, I was very ready for it. That's one thing that I would say. I was at a point where I really think probably the last 6 or 7 years I was in the business, I'm like, I want something new. I want something different. Maybe you could think of it, I guess, maybe as midlife crisis. I don't know. It wasn't really like a crisis, but it was just like, I was ready to do something different. And I had always wanted to be a realtor, which is kind of a funny thing. People are like, why did you choose real estate? And I have tons of friends that were in real estate that I were very close to. A lot of them were really good clients as well, that had always said, you should sell real estate. You'd be really good at it. You're very good with people, so on and so forth. And I always thought it was I just always liked it. And when I bought homes, the realtor I used was real good. And she would always say, you need to be a realtor. So I knew I wanted to do that. So it wasn't like I didn't know what I was going to do, right? And I also knew that realty is something you can do well into retirement if you want, because you can do as little or as much as you want.
Right.
You can sell, you can do a certain amount of GCI and make an extra 20, 25,000 a year in retirement if you want, or you can treat it as a full-time business and make way, 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 way more than that.
What's GCI?
A gross commission income.
Okay.
Gross sales.
So you're 100% commission, essentially.
Yeah, all realtors.
So it's got to be like owning your own business, because I sold radio.
It is like owning your own business with a great big difference. You don't have any employees.
Right.
It's all you.
Yeah.
And you get everything out of it that you put into it, or you don't get anything out if you don't put anything to it. That's the big difference. But yes, you're still very much an entrepreneur. Like if you don't sell a home, you don't make any money. And so, but I was ready for it. So as far as the shop going, there were some shops in town that I always wanted to buy my shop. So that was a given. There were 2 shops I approached. Oak Creek ended up buying my shop. It worked out really, really well. I went right to real estate school and became a realtor right away. People ask me all the time, do you miss the flower business? I do not miss the flower business at all. I miss creating real artistic arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
I miss that part, but I don't miss the other part. I had really gotten to the peak of what I could do in the real estate world itself. I'd become a member of the American Institute of Floral Design, which is very difficult to be a member of. I was a member of the Professional Floral Communicators International, so I could speak publicly to peers all across the country or anywhere in the world. I'd worked with world famous designers. I'd traveled all over the place doing things with flowers. So, I'd done all the stuff in the business itself that I had wanted to do. I didn't feel like I left and there were things I never accomplished that I had to accomplish. Mm-hmm. So that was comforting in and of itself. I was ready, really ready to make the move. Yeah. It really came at the right time. And it was funny that it was just COVID that did it. I was just like, this, I've built this niche now. At that point, I'd build a niche, whatever we call it, where I did mostly a lot. I did daily orders and stuff. Obviously, someone passed away, weddings, that kind of thing. But really events, I had started doing a lot of those with a lot of larger companies here in town, the universities. And that was a big part of my business. So when COVID hit, we lost 74% of our business.
Ooh, yeah.
And most of them said in that March when Larry said, oh, we're going to close for a couple of weeks. Most people in business knew that wasn't true.
Right.
And also looking at what was happening nationally, it's like, yeah, we'll see how that pans out. And the big fear was there that everybody's got to get shots and all. I'm like, I don't buy that, number one. Number two, almost every single event that we had pre-planned for that year. So in March, you're looking at all the way through Christmas, things that happened yearly, big recognition banquets that, Lincoln Industries or UNL or whatever might have, all these things, Christmas parties, and everything. Most places just let us know, hey, we're just stopping any events we've had planned for the rest of this year till we see how it pans out. So I'm now sitting there going, I'm losing 74% of my business.
Right.
At the same time, I knew there's always going to be a need for things because people are still going to be born. They're still going to die. There's still going to be proms. There's still going to be, now maybe they won't have proms in person or whatever, but they might do. I mean, there was still, some business is still going to happen. Mm-hmm. But it was a perfect time for me to sell. And then to become a real estate agent, a lot of people are like, are you nuts? Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Well, yeah, but interest rates were 2.75%.
Right.
Everybody was buying.
And it was a perfect time to do a lot of studying and get your license and all that stuff, I would imagine.
Yeah. What's interesting about real estate is you have to go to school and learn, and you don't use a dang thing you really learn in there. I use everything I learned in my life having been in business all those years.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say nothing. I mean, you need to know what the laws are so you don't break them.
Right.
But I remember my broker one time, I said, oh my God, if there's trouble, I've always been able to find it my whole life. I just find it. And I said, I'm so worried I'm going to get called up in front of the commission because I break a law or something unintentionally. She goes, be kind, be honest, and have integrity. You'll be fine. Mm-hmm. Right. If something doesn't feel right, it's probably not go to one of your brokers and deal with it. And it was the best advice ever. But you do have to know the laws. I mean, you got to pass the test.
So what did you bring with you from business ownership into real estate?
Oh my God, so much. Number one, the biggest thing is to know that people will do business with people they like first. You earn the trust. That's the number one thing. The second thing was that was very, very true in the floral industry, right? So your daughter's getting married. You're going to give me $5,000 to do her wedding flowers. And you're not going to see them until the day of the wedding. What does that require?
Oh, that's an immense amount of trust.
A whole amount of trust.
Yeah.
So thinking of the trust of I'm going to take you, David, to go look at houses. Your first time home buyer, you're going to spend $300,000. It's everything you got. You're going to go in debt. You're scared to death. You know, your trust in me guiding you through that process is enormous. So I brought a lot of that where those clients, people that knew me, all the networking I'd done over the years, people I met, they knew that I'm the type that first off, if something goes wrong, I'm going to do whatever to make it right and make it work. You know, I theorize that everything works out in the end, but it does that because of a lot of hard work I would always do to make sure that that happens. Work ethic, knowledge, asking for help when it's needed, guiding, all those things that need to be done. So I brought that to the table. I'd also say having managed people, that I learned an awful lot about the different personality types. We don't talk enough about it on this show. We have a little, but knowing different personality types in business is huge, right? Is somebody caloric where they're going to make decisions? They need 3 big points and they make a decision. Or are they phlegmatic where before they hit the submitting button on an app they're downloading, they want to read the dang thing.
Right.
And make sure that their firstborn child won't be taken away. They can still celebrate their birthday. I mean, so having worked with personalities, worked with a mother and a father and a daughter and an in-law to be on wedding planning flowers when one person's going to pay for it all and these other people have these glorious ideas, and how to bring them together and meld it and make it work. Working with a young couple that came in that struggled to buy their first home. They're both working hard jobs. They just had their daughter, Emily. She's 3.5 months and she died. And I have to guide them through the process of funeral. What does that look like? They've been barraged by all these people. Now they come into a flower shop where they're going to create something beautiful. And it's, you know, you bring them through that. You learn a lot with that through people, right? Divorce. I worked through a lot of that. You know, I had charge cards in my face, you know. What did my husband order and where'd they go? I mean, I'd been through a lot of the challenges of fires of life.
I was just say, do people buy flowers celebrating a divorce? That's where I was going with it.
No,
like,
usually they get caught sending somebody flowers. And
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. No, well, but anyway,
I'll bet you we could do a whole radio show on that.
Oh, yeah. And it would be fun.
Yes,
we should just do like funny things that happened in business over the years.
That's actually a great idea. Well, another break coming up here. I want to thank Lincoln Coin and Bullion for sponsoring the show. They've been a trusted local resource for precious metals, rare coins, and collectibles, helping customers buy and sell with transparency and confidence. They'll also help you understand gold, silver, and tangible assets, and probably copper now that pennies are going away. I don't know if that's going to affect anything. But making it part of your long-term strategy for retirement. Go check them out. LincolnCoinandBullion.com. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider, Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We'll be back. One last segment. The last segment of this Sunday edition of the 402 Business Insider, Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. I want to thank Integrative Behavioral Health Services and James Arthur Vineyards for sponsoring the show. And rolling into this last segment, I want to kind of pull back the curtain on moving into becoming a radio host, because this is a business and I want to tell you to tell your side of it and how we got into this and what the idea was behind it. So let's talk a little about that.
Well, I always loved radio. I mean, I used radio a lot in my business for marketing for years. I did live ads with radio, so I was very comfortable with that. I co-hosted Grow Lincoln a lot with Dave and Robin, so I was familiar with radio. My nickname growing up was Lippy, so talking was no problem. My mom is still going to go to early grave if she finds out I make $1 speaking anywhere, which she did many years ago, but love you, Mom. Yeah, it can happen. But anyway, well, you approached me, right? I mean, with through the whole LIPA thing, and they had a show that was at the ticket, and you said, hey, would you be interested in doing this? I remember thinking, oh yeah, I would love doing it. And like everything, you know, I jump into the water and then find out it's 4 inches deep and I broke both my legs. I didn't think much about it. I remember showing up at the first show and everybody was like, what are you going to talk about? What are you? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And I was nervous.
Oh, which
was
too.
Weird. And I remember saying that to you because I'm not. It's challenging still for me to ask for help. It was just never in part of my who I was growing up. My dad was always like, you just deal with it, and recover from yourself. Don't bother other people. So I remember sitting there and thinking, I'm really nervous. I don't know what it was. You must have noticed something because you go, you're right. And I go, I'm really I'm nervous. We're going to be on the air here soon. And I'm not just doing a short little ad or subbing for somebody with pre-written text, and you go, Gary, we're just going to have a conversation. And I remember thinking, I like that. I like the idea of just having a conversation. And so, I love the idea of doing radio. I've always loved helping other people. I think innately most people want to help other people. That's important. I like that our show does that. I think when people are listening to our show, they can instantly know what we're about. We're not about a bunch of political stuff. We're not about religion. We're not about all these. Not that any of those things are bad, but I'm just saying that our show focuses on business. Talking to real people that have started real businesses or taken over a family business, whatever it might be. It focuses on what does it take for that to happen, because that essentially is the heartbeat of America. Without small business.
Has anything surprised you about hosting a show?
I like you better than I thought I would.
Well, that could mean so many things.
I'm just kidding. I'm pleasantly surprised how easy it has flowed for me. And I think for you too. Well, you're just very good at radio. I don't even know if you can ride a horse. Anyway, there goes Travis backwards on a horse again. No, that's a donkey. But I'm surprised how well it's been able to flow for me and not be stressful. And I like being put on the spot. I am quick-witted. I'm quick to think. And so for me, I like that a lot. Sometimes I'll go through the show prep, that you do and you put together, and I'll read it so I know what the outline is. I don't want to get too detailed because I like the organic part of being live.
And I love, in our industry, in the radio industry, a lot of things are pre-recorded now. And I said, we need to keep this live. I want to stay live because there's an element of the live radio that gives you an energy. Yeah. I mean, we've been doing this for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
I still get a little bit nervous when that,
oh yeah.
And I can feel myself like, oh my gosh, what's the next question?
Right.
And I think it gives you a little bit of an edge. It keeps it fresh and spontaneous.
Or for me, I have to pronounce the word boyan. Those little things. It's kind of funny live, but I do love it.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun.
And it's been a joy doing the show with you, Travis, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've liked getting to know you better. And, I love the passion that you bring to it. I think makes a huge difference. And I've gotten, I suppose people that don't like the show are never going to call and say, hey, you suck. Yeah. But I have had people randomly just going, God, I tuned into your show. Just had a buddy the other day, Dean Young, that's like, I didn't know you had a radio show and I heard it and really loved it, and digging in deeper. And so I think it'll grow with time. And I know it's helping people.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of people who have said, hey, I heard this show and you talked about this topic that was really helpful, or that was or they share stories of similar, and it's like, well, come on and talk to us about your business and what you went through.
And I love that people have been real on this show, including both of us, be able to talk about our mistakes, things that we did wrong, things that, you kind of feel shameful for a little bit, like how could it be so stupid or whatever. But it's as a society in a whole, we need to all do that more.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're all humans, and let's just make this world a better place.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I love too that we bring on local business. Nobody's trained to do radio. This isn't some, it's just sharing information and the trials and tribulations that we're all going through as business owners. Yeah. And even if you sold your business, you're still going through a lot of this stuff. Sure. And you have so much wisdom to share on with future entrepreneurs. Yeah. Same with us.
We both do. You bet.
So yeah, I absolutely enjoy.
And I want to thank David, our producer. He's been amazing, huge part of making this show successful. Thank you, David.
And who just passed the LSATs, the lawyer. See, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a radio host. So, but when he has his business, he's going to come on and talk to us about running a successful law firm.
You dang bet.
Well, thanks to Wyuka Cemetery. We appreciate them being a sponsor of the show. They've been serving Lincoln families for generations, helping people honor lives and preserve legacies with care, dignity, and respect. Learn more at wyuka.com. That's WYUKA.com. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We're going to be back next week at our normal time slot, 10:30 on Saturday. But I kind of like this. It was kind of like a lazy Sunday morning for us. Yeah. I enjoyed it. Have a great Sunday, and we will see you guys next Saturday.